They tried to trick China and got caught red-handed. In one of the biggest trade scandals of the year, China just rejected 300,000 tons of soybeans from Argentina. Why? Because those soybeans weren't really from Argentina. No, they were from the United States, disguised with fake certificates to dodge China's tariffs. That's right, someone tried to sneak American soybeans into China under Argentina's name, and it backfired spectacularly. But this isn't just about soybeans. It's about how desperate and dirty global trade has become. It's about how the United States, supposedly the leader of the free market, is now manipulating global rules, declaring economic wars on countries left and right, and getting exposed in the process. And it's about how China, along with rising powers in the global south, is now calling the shots. Let's break down exactly what happened. In June 2025, Chinese customs officials made headlines when they rejected a massive soybean shipment from Argentina. We're talking about 300,000 tons of grain. On paper, it was all legit. Certified as Argentine, checked, stamped, ready for unloading. But Chinese authorities weren't buying it. They took some samples of the soybean and ran high-tech tests, way beyond your average customs inspection. We're talking pesticide residue analysis, isotope testing, even soil DNA matching. Yes, China's customs officials literally examined the microscopic fingerprint of the soil the soybeans were grown in. And guess what? It didn't match Argentina's Pampas region, where the shipment was supposedly from. Instead, it matched farmlands in the United States of America. So, what does this mean? Essentially, someone tried to slap a fake passport on American soybeans to sneak them into China without paying massive tariffs, because there are currently high tariffs between the US and China due to a certain man of orange persuasion. And in today's world, where tensions between China and the US are higher than ever, that's not just shady, it's geopolitical dynamite. Now let's zoom out. Why would someone go through all that effort just to sneak soybeans into China? Simple. Money and politics. Since Donald Trump reignited his aggressive trade war tactics, the U.S. has slapped tariffs on Chinese goods left and right, up to 245% in some cases. China, in return, has imposed heavy tariffs of up to 125% on U.S. agricultural products, including soybeans. That's made it nearly impossible for American farmers to sell to their biggest customer, China. It's a great tactic from China, to be honest, because these farmers are by and large Trump supporters. So, someone thought they could pull a fast one. Use Argentina as a backdoor to bypass the tariffs, make a quick profit, and pretend nothing happened. But China isn't stupid, and they're certainly not weak. This scandal didn't just embarrass the people behind the fraud. It sent shockwaves through Argentina's agricultural industry. Argentina is already struggling. It's the world's third largest soybean producer behind Brazil and the US, but low prices and high surplus have created a huge backlog. Nearly 28 million tons of unsold soybeans are sitting in storage, and now with China rejecting a shipment over fraud, Argentina's reputation is taking a hit. Even though there's no hard evidence that the Argentine government was involved, the damage is done. Exporters are under fire, producers are panicking, and Chinese buyers are more cautious than ever. Argentina now has to work overtime to rebuild trust, not just with China, but with global markets. And Brazil? They're watching this unfold with nervous eyes. Brazil is the largest soybean exporter in the world and a key supplier to China, but even they're not safe. Earlier this year, China temporarily banned imports from 5 Brazilian companies after finding pesticide residues in pests. It's a clear signal. If you want to trade with China, you better have your house in order. China wants clean products that follow their rules. But here's where things get interesting. This whole mess is actually pushing countries like Argentina and Brazil closer to China and further away from the West. Because let's face it, the United States is no longer the reliable trade partner it used to be. Under Trump's leadership, America has weaponized trade, used sanctions like candy, and picked fights with almost everyone: China, the EU, Latin America, even its own allies. Trump's motto isn't America first anymore, it's everyone else last. That's why the global south is turning eastward. Countries are tired of being bullied by Western financial systems, pressured by IMF conditions, and trapped in trade relationships that benefit Washington more than anyone else. So, they're building something new, together, After all, who can trust a nation who seems to switch sides every 4 years? Enter BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, once considered just a loose economic club, are now transforming into a real counterweight to U.S. global dominance, and more countries are lining up to join. In recent years, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE have all formally joined BRICS, with many other countries expressing interest or becoming observer members. As of 2024, BRICS holds almost 50% of the world's population, 40% of GDP, and over 54% of primary crop production. The goal? Create an alternative economic system that doesn't revolve around the US dollar. Strengthen South-South cooperation, increase trade between emerging economies, and build supply chains that don't depend on the whims of Washington. China is leading this shift. In 2024 alone, China imported 105 million tons of soybeans, with the majority coming from Brazil and Argentina, not the US. China is now the world's largest importer of soy, and it's also setting the rules. While the US burns bridges, China is building railroads, ports, and entire trade corridors through Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and beyond. And the numbers speak for themselves. By 2025, China has trade agreements with over 140 countries, and more than half of the global South now counts China as its top trading partner. The Belt and Road Initiative, once criticized by the West as debt trap diplomacy, is now being embraced by dozens of nations who see it as a way to break free from the West's economic leash. Meanwhile, the U.S. is losing influence fast. Its share of global trade is shrinking, its sanctions are backfiring, and its politics are so unstable that even allies don't know what to expect next. One election cycle and everything changes. Who wants to build long-term infrastructure with that kind of unpredictability? So when we look back at this soybean scandal, it's not just about mislabeled grains. It's a symbol of a bigger story. The story of a world shifting away from U.S. dominance toward a more multipolar order. A world where China isn't just a buyer of soybeans, it's the architect of the next era of global trade. And the lesson here is simple. China is no longer the passive partner it once was. It's setting high standards, demanding accountability, and using cutting-edge tech to make sure it gets what it paid for. They are strong enough and rich enough to actively deny U.S. trade. This would have been unthinkable 2 decades ago. For countries like Argentina and Brazil, the choice is clear. Modernize, cooperate, and meet China's expectations, or risk being left behind. And for the U.S., it should be a wake-up call. You can't bully your way through a global economy forever. Tariffs, sanctions, and trade wars might get headlines, but they don't build trust, they don't build partnerships, and they definitely don't build a future. Whether the West likes it or not, the balance of power is shifting. And the days of Western monopoly over trade, finance, and global rules, they're coming to an end. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.